if you are just feeling completely sluggish at the end of a long run, feel sick, you are recovering really poorly, you're laid up on the couch for the rest of the day, it's probably going to come back to one of these things that I'm talking about. So let's get into these top 3 mistakes that I see as a coach, because I want to make sure that you are not making the same mistakes. So number 1 is not fueling enough. So most people think that they are doing okay because they're able to get through the long run perhaps, but they are way lower than we want to see for that fueling. And so fueling well doesn't just make it so that you can have a good run, but it also makes a difference in terms of recovery afterwards as well. And so you always want to be thinking like, what's the point here in my fueling? It's so that I can run strong and so that I can recover hard as well. And just knowing that your body is immediately using those carbohydrates, you need that. And one thing to consider too is that you are planning for race day. You are prepping for race day. So even though maybe in that 15-mile long run, you don't technically need to be taking 60 grams of carbs per hour for that 15-miler, you're gonna definitely need to be taking 60 grams plus of carbs per hour for your marathon, and your body has to be very used to taking in that amount of fuel. So always be thinking about that too when you're going for these long runs, especially as you're getting later into the marathon training cycle, is that this is like a dry run for race day. You're always thinking that. And so when you approach your fueling, thinking of it, this is my dry run for race day. The way I practice it is the way that I'm going to put it into place on race day. If I practice well, I will be ready. Okay, next one is not hydrating enough. So if you're not taking in enough water, in enough electrolytes, your energy is going to be zapped. You're going to probably feel cramping, and you're going to realize it real quick that you probably needed to drink more water. It goes right in the same bucket as fueling. It's doing all of, the same types of things in terms of taking care of your body. And so make sure that you're getting enough water. The reason I think people make this mistake the most is because they just don't want to carry any water on their person. I'm sorry, but this is part of the game. Like if you're going to be training for a marathon, you have to be okay with taking water out on those long runs, or at the very least that you're doing some sort of flyby by your car or by your house or something so that you can be getting enough. But I do worry about those people who don't carry anything, that they're probably not getting enough. So at the very least, you should have some sort of a handheld that you can fill up somewhere along the way several times. But hydration vest for most people is usually the best way to go. Lastly, biggest mistake I see is going too fast. Most of these people do not think that they're going too fast. They think that this is their easy pace, and it absolutely is not their easy pace. So I think people get stuck in this like, oh, well, it was conversational. I could talk. I was talking with my friend. But then when you really think it through, like you could hear yourself breathing. It felt labored. And if you cannot get through a long run feeling strong, or let's say you're supposed to be running this long run at a comfortable pace, and you go out a 10-minute mile and you run 10-minute miles fine for 14 of the miles, and then the last 3 are like 11, 12, 14, that's a really big sign that you are running too fast. If you cannot hold the pace for the, end or last several miles of that long run, you went way too fast in the beginning. So I always tell people, we want to flip that. If you want to do a 14-minute mile to start your first mile to ease in, do that. 14, 13, 12, then get to the 11s, and then you can see if that's good. If that feels like your easy pace, then that's fine. But these are the types of things you have to be willing to correct in marathon training from one to the next. Don't just keep trying the same thing over and over, because the same thing's going to continue to happen. So as a rule of thumb, I don't like to focus on pace so much. I like to go by effort and feel, but people have a problem with this. So then I just straight up say, make sure you're going at least 1.5 minutes slower than your planned marathon pace, or what your 5K time maybe shows that you can do for a marathon. That marathon pace, it should be 1.5 minutes per mile slower when you're doing those easy long runs, at least. For me, I almost always go 2 minutes or more slower than marathon pace anytime I'm doing any easy chunks within that long run. My marathon pace is about 7:55 minutes per mile, and you will regularly find me going about 10:30 per mile pace. So you really can't run too slow on these guys. I would get that in your head and just know The purpose of your run, the goal is to go the distance. If it says easy, run it comfortably, and run the full distance. Feel good. If you're fueling, hydrating, and pacing correctly, then you're going to recover well, and you're going to be able to get on with your day, play with your kids, go out with your significant other, be with your friends, be with your family, and feel fine. Yes, there's some tiredness, but you're not laid up on the couch.